Hello and welcome back to Movie Husbands. Today we'll be reviewing Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up is Adam McKay's apocalyptic comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, and many more. Two scientists try to save the world from an imminent threat, but first they have to convince the world it's worth caring about. So Matt, what did you think of Don't Look Up? This movie was a real piece of
I don't even know where to start with this movie. I really don't.
I hated this movie.
There's like 20 different things I could say. And gosh, where do I start? Okay, let's start with Adam McKay, because I think acknowledging his filmography could be helpful in this discussion, because I do like Adam McKay.
I like more of his films than I dislike.
Yeah. I love Step Brothers.
Anchorman.
I love Anchorman. I wasn't really huge on Vice, but one of the things that I love about Adam McKay is just like this complete absurdity that ends up being so funny, and it did not work in this movie for me. And I think it's because absurdity meets reality. And when you have that, it's no longer satire. I would say Veep is a much better representation of what this film could have been that it wasn't. And of course, what happened? What did Julia Louis-Dreyfus say? She said, we can't keep going with the show because it's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the biggest problems with this movie. And there's so many other problems tied with this movie. The fact that they have all these wonderful people here, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence. It's like you have this Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep is in this movie, and you have Jonah Hill. Oh my God, I'm just going through all the
Timothée
people.
Chalamet.
Timothée Chalamet.
Let's just shout.
Yeah,
they're probably in the movie.
But this movie, I'm like on a rant right now, but this movie has like so many fantastic, wonderful people in it. I know some people are going to be in the comment section saying how much they love this movie. This is just my opinion here, but I just did not like this movie. It did not work for me.
Yeah, I actually actively cringed during most of the comedy. The trouble is when you catch on to the joke about 15 minutes in, it's the same joke. And this movie's 140 minutes long. This is a 2-hour and 20-minute satire? Like, what are you doing? You can't make a 2-hour and 20-minute comedy. Like, I mean, yes, there have been long comedies and they have worked. Adam McKay is not ushering in some new wonderful frontier of comedy. This film is just one unpleasant note being like shouted over and over and over. I could not have felt more disconnected from what was going on. I'm not saying that all satire needs to be like Voltaire or something. It doesn't need to be complex. Even like Veep is complex, but you could also just watch it for what's going on the surface and it's still really good satire. This movie is so on the surface, like it's just sledgehammering you, and it sledgehammers you for 140 minutes. This is an SNL sketch that's stretched to 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I think on top of what you were saying, it's just the actors here, they're really doing the best with what they're given, but their roles and their characters in general, there's nothing there. It's so surface level. Leonardo DiCaprio goes through this phase of being a scientist who's trying to get the truth out, and then he kind of falls into this moral pit of becoming one of the bad people and then realizing at the end. It's so bland and so surface level, and there's no depth to his character at all.
Well, Veep was genius because Veep was about people who are so helplessly self-absorbed they don't realize that what they're doing is so incredibly important. And that's going on in this movie too, but they're just like shining all the lights on it all the time, and they have to make sure you don't miss it. And by doing that for so long and so often, to me it completely defeats the satire, because when you're laughing of recognition. You're going, ha ha ha, I recognize why that's funny. If they don't leave any recognition for you to have, it's not funny. And Adam McKay is capable of making a great movie. I absolutely love The Big Short. That is a hard
Big Short was great.
Hard A movie for me. And I think what this movie is going for is just an absolute failure of what that movie was so good at. Granted, he was adapting a really good book that was really intelligent, but he was also distilling all of this information about the financial crisis to people in a really concise and funny way, and they probably haven't seen it explained that well before in many cases. So I find that film really admirable. I find this film self-congratulatory. Like, I don't know if this matters. We are both fairly liberal-minded people who vote Democrat, just in case anybody cares. And this movie is just people that think the same things as us patting themselves on the back and patting their friends on the back. Like, it didn't feel I have no idea who would be convinced of anything new after seeing this movie.
Yeah, it's not like I don't disagree with anything in this movie on a surface level. Like every single thing they're talking about, I'm like, yeah, get corporations.
Yeah.
I understand all of these things, but it does seem a little bit odd to make an $80 million movie, spend all these resources to tell people about climate change.
Yeah.
Like the people who understand and know about it, which is a huge percentage of the population as it is. In terms of this film, is seems to treat humanity as pessimistically as possible. And that the only two people that are aware of the moral high ground in this movie are the only two scientists.
Yeah.
And they don't really show any other perspective. So you get this impression that everybody's kind of just dumb. I also don't like how it treats this movie as if the United States is kind of like the harbinger of everything that happens in the world. The movie never explains how nobody else in the world stops this from happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. It treats people way too cynically. I think what this film is going for is that feeling you have when you're at the dinner table with relatives and you're just screaming at them, trying to make them care about something they should really care about, that they're being so callous about. I think that's what this movie is going for, but I just don't think it achieved it very effectively. And it instead came off as, you know, your most progressive friends are the only people that have answers, which I think is a really bad message.
On a possible positive note for this movie, it is getting a lot of discussion. I probably haven't heard this many people watching a movie since Bird Box on Netflix. So
Yeah, although unfortunately, several of our friends have recommended this movie to us and we have not texted them back because we hated it. And they're going to find out when they watch this review how much we hated this movie. So I'm sorry to all my friends that texted me about this movie. So you ready to go to grades?
Yep, I give this movie a D. I did not enjoy this film, as we have made perfectly clear. It's an unfortunate result of a group of very talented people. You know, I hope just whatever comes next is a little bit more grounded and funnier.
Yeah, I agree. I give this a D-. I enjoyed none of this except occasionally Jonah Hill. That's all I got. And that's it for a review of Don't Look Up, which is now streaming on Netflix. What did you think of Don't Look Up? We're a little scared to hear, but please put it in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.